Have you ever wondered what could possibly cause a war to last 100 years? Welcome to the tale of the 100 Years' War, a conflict that spanned from 1337 to 1453. This was not just a war, but a century-long chess game played by two of the most powerful monarchies of the Middle Ages, England and France. The spark that ignited this protracted conflict was a question of lineage, of who had the rightful claim to the French crown. You see, when the last Capetian king died without a male heir, it threw the kingdom into disarray. England, under King Edward III, saw an opportunity and claimed the throne, challenging the French nobility's choice of a Valois prince. This was the beginning of a violent and drawn-out struggle, marked by strategic alliances, betrayal, and bloodshed. As we delve into this century-long conflict, brace yourself for a journey through one of the most brutal eras in human history. The war began with a wave of English victories. A potent statement that rings true when we delve into the early years of the 100 Years' War, a time when the might of England was resoundingly echoed across the battlefields of Europe. England's initial dominance was marked by two notable battles, the Battle of Crecy in 1346 and the Battle of Poitiers a decade later in 1356. Both these battles saw the English forces triumphing over their French counterparts, setting a seemingly unshakable precedent for the early years of the war. At Crecy, the English King Edward III led his troops into a conflict that would become a classical example of a successful defensive battle. The English forces, though outnumbered, stood their ground, using their weapon of choice, the longbow, to deadly effect. The French knights in their heavy armor were no match for the hailstorm of arrows that rained down upon them. The field of Crecy was left strewn with the fallen, a testament to the English victory. Fast forward 10 years to the Battle of Poitiers. Here, the English again showcased their martial prowess under the leadership of Edward, the Black Prince. Once more, the longbow was the star of the show. The English archers, positioned strategically, unleashed a flurry of arrows that decimated the French forces. The French king John II was captured, a crippling blow to French morale and a significant victory for the English. The longbow, a simple yet lethal weapon, was a game-changer in these battles. Its range and speed surpassed that of the crossbow, the preferred weapon of the French. The English archers, skilled and disciplined, could release a barrage of arrows that cut through the heavily armored French knights. This period of English dominance, marked by these two decisive battles, showcased the effectiveness of the longbow and the strategic prowess of the English leadership. The French were left reeling, their armies decimated, their king captured, their morale shattered. And thus, the first phase of the war came to an end, with England seemingly in control. The stage was set for the next dramatic act in the saga of the 100 Years' War. But the tide of war is ever changing. And so it was, in the year of our Lord 1429, when the winds of conflict shifted in favor of France. The Battle of Orléans would prove pivotal in this seismic shift, a beacon of hope in the midst of despair. Orléans, a city of strategic importance, had been under siege by the English for several months. Its capture would have been a significant victory for the English, a crippling blow to French morale. But history had a different script to offer. Enter Joan of Arc, a young peasant girl from the rural village of Domremy. Joan was not a trained soldier, she had no experience in the art of war. Yet she claimed to have been visited by saints who had given her a divine mission, to liberate France from English domination. Against all odds, Joan convinced the Dauphin, Charles of Valois, to grant her an army. With an unyielding spirit and divine conviction, she led her forces to Orléans. The English, confident of their impending victory, were taken aback by this unexpected turn of events. Under Joan's leadership, the French forces rallied. They fought with renewed vigor, inspired by the bravery of this unlikely heroine. After 9 days of intense battle, the French managed to lift the siege. The Battle of Orléans was won. The tide had turned. The victory at Orléans was more than a military triumph. It was a symbolic victory that marked the beginning of France's resurgence. It rekindled the spirit of resistance among the French people and gave them hope. Joan of Arc, the Maid of Orléans, became a symbol of French resistance, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. This was the turning point of the 100 Years' War. With the Battle of Orléans, France began to claw back territories it had lost and slowly turned the tables on the English. But this was just the beginning. Joan's role in the war was far from over. Little did anyone know a peasant girl would turn the tide of this century-long conflict. The end was near, but not without its share of drama. As the final phase of the 100 Years' War unfolded, the stage was set for a climax that would change the face of warfare forever. The Battle of Castillon in 1453 was where it all came to a head. This historic clash, often considered the last major battle of the war, marked a turning point not just for England and France, but for the entire world. Why, you might ask? Well, it was here that the French army, under the command of Jean Bureau, introduced a game-changing weapon, the cannon. Yes, the cannon, a symbol of modern warfare, made its debut on the battlefield of Castillon. Its introduction was a tactical masterstroke that would give the French the edge they needed. But it wasn't just about having a powerful new weapon, it was about how the French used it. They deployed these cannons with a strategy that was as innovative as it was effective. The French forces set up a fortified camp, equipped with an array of these cannons. They didn't march into battle. Instead, they let the battle come to them. The English, led by Shrewsbury, walked right into this deadly trap. The outcome? A catastrophic loss for the English and a decisive victory for the French. This victory at Castillon was monumental. It didn't just mark the end of English dominance in France, but it also signaled the dawn of a new era in warfare. From this point on, battles would no longer be won by knights on horseback, but by the strategic use of artillery and firepower. The 100 Years' War, a saga that spanned generations, filled with tales of heroism, treachery, and relentless struggle, was finally drawing to a close. And it was the French, with their innovative use of the cannon, who emerged victorious. The war had seen kingdoms rise and fall, heroes made and unmade, but perhaps its most enduring legacy was this shift in warfare, this heralding of a new age of blood and iron. The 100 Years' War, a saga of blood and iron, finally came to an end. In the aftermath of the war, Europe was forever changed. The 100 Years' War, a relentless dance of power between England and France, had profound implications on both nations. The devastation of the war was a catalyst for change, precipitating shifts in military tactics, the rise of nationalism, and sweeping socio-economic transformations. Let's delve into the realm of military strategies first. The 100 Years' War saw the sunset of the age of chivalry and the dawn of new, more pragmatic tactics. The longbow, an English weapon, had proved its mettle on the battlefield, challenging the supremacy of the heavily armored knights. This was the first hint of a future where technology and strategy would outweigh brute force and noble birthright. Now, let's turn our gaze to the rise of nationalism. This war, which had bled both nations dry, also ironically infused them with a newfound sense of identity. In England, the war bolstered the power of the Parliament as the monarch needed its approval to impose war taxes. Meanwhile, in France, the war's end saw the emergence of a strong, centralized monarchy, and a unified nation began to take shape under the banner of the fleur-de-lis. Lastly, we cannot ignore the socio-economic transformations the war wrought. The constant warfare had ravaged the land, leading to famine and disease. The population of France plummeted, and the economy was left in shambles. Yet from this devastation, a new order emerged. As the nobility faltered, the middle class began to rise, their wealth built on trade and industry rather than land and lineage. The end of the 100 Years' War marked the end of an era. It was a war that shaped nations, redefined warfare, and rewrote the socio-economic fabric of society. The echoes of this conflict still resonate today, a testament to its lasting impact. As we leave the battlefields of the 100 Years' War, we see a transformed landscape, both literally and metaphorically. 100 years of warfare, millions of lives lost, two nations forever altered. We began with a prelude, setting the stage for the inevitable clash between England and France. England's initial dominance, bolstered by superior military tactics and leadership, resulted in the capture of the French king. But as the tide of time turned, so did the fortunes of war. France's resurgence, marked by the rise of Joan of Arc and the innovative use of cannons, turned the tables. The end of the war witnessed France's victory, reclaiming lost territories and asserting its sovereignty. The war left a scar on the face of Europe, changing its political, social, and economic landscapes indelibly. The 100 Years' War was not only about the brutality on the battlefield, but also about the lasting impact it had on the nations involved, and indeed, on the world. This century-long conflict serves as a stark reminder of the profound ways in which war can shape the course of history.